Welcome to He Did This to Me, the sports podcast from a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Knicks, Mets, and Jets fans. My name is Nick, aka Goody, and with me is my old man, aka the big guy, Noel. And just like his name, all we do is win. Let's get to the show. It's time to begin. Knicks currently on a 3-game winning streak. They find themselves third in the Eastern Conference and only a game and a half behind the second place Milwaukee Bucks. We got to start off this episode with our guy Ragu against the Detroit Pistons. 40 points, 11 of 20 from behind the arc, setting the new record for amount of threes in one game that used to be held collectively by J.R. Smith as well as Evan Fournier, who was in the building to watch his record get broken. What did you think of Ragu and his performance that night? And then we'll get into a little bit, Fournier playing defense for the first time ever, and then the crybaby Monty Williams in his comments postgame.
Hey, love Ragu that night. Listen, the guy lit it up, man. He was playing his ass off, and he played well. I just love everything about his game. I have to say, Nick, we spoke about this earlier, and even coming into the season, he'd be a great guy coming off the bench. Listen, man, this guy's a legitimate starting two guard in the league. Okay, fact. All right, it just is, and we need to stop even dancing around it. He is. And, we had said before that if we get if we had gotten like a DeJounte Murray, you would just slide him back. Now, mind you, DeJounte Murray just had a big game, 44 points, mind you, on 44 shots. So I still want Ragu in that spot starting. Okay, sorry. I mean, there's maybe one other two guard in the league who I really want to start over him, and you know who he is out here in the desert,
Yeah.
Listen, man, the guys just played phenomenal. That night in particular was fantastic. Have to be really happy with the display, the shooting, the way his teammates look for him. I have zero issue with keeping him in the game and reinserting him for that record. Fournier, that was very funny. It was like somebody, lit a fire. Well, definitely lit a fire under him. But no one's ever seen him fight over a pick like that. I mean, it's like I read so many funny quotes where people say like Tibbs was ready to give him his jersey back, because he's never seen him play D like that before. It was just hilarious. And Monty, come on, bro. Come on, bro. You're embarrassing yourself. Like I say to you, Nick, I don't believe in giving your team excuses. I don't believe in giving your team excuses with the refs, okay? Unless I believe that there are the fixes in, I don't believe in blaming the refs, and I don't believe in some arbitrary bullshit like that where, all you have to do is stop it. This is the pros, man. This ain't CYO. There's no such thing as running up the score. The score is what it is. These guys play for money. They get paid on stats. You don't think I'm going to want to score more when I can score more? This could turn into dollars. I mean, beyond just the fact that we're just playing hoops out here. It's just silly. It's a bad look for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, so first and foremost, as far as Ragu and his performance that night, you could tell earlier or very early on that he had it going. That was clear. And even in the times, there was really only that time where he got right before he got reinserted, he missed 3 threes in a row. And at that point, you could tell he was, just trying to get one off and trying to get to the record. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, and it's something that I was noticing throughout the game, even though he started on with a pace that was going to get him close to that record, and the commentators were already talking about it. Clearly, they knew it, and clearly his teammates were trying to get him the ball, which I personally love to. I love to watch. I love in a game where you can see both Brunson and Hart, and even some of the other guys were like, "Hey, man, this guy's got it going. We're looking for him." I just love when people play basketball like that, and they're feeding the hot hand, and they're thinking about the overall team as far as just that makes basketball sense, but also like trying to take care of your guys. So the other part that I saw with that, though, was throughout the game. Remember, it's not like Dante was just chucking up threes. His first bucket was off of a great cut, and he goes and he lays it up on the other side. Again, his perfect pure floor game and his ability to, always be able to make the right play at all 3 levels. He'll hit the mid-range shot, he'll get all the way to the rim, and obviously he's bombs away from deep. So that's the thing. And I even saw him at certain times where he had a three that he could have gotten off, but he still made the right pass. They just play the game the correct way. And he did that
Mm-hmm.
while having a historic performance. As far as Fournier, you said there was a fire lit under his ass. Some would say that Dante's Inferno was up under his ass because all the time,
I
all
see
of
what
a
you
sudden,
did there.
all of a sudden, man, this guy is fighting over screens. He's challenging, and I'm just like, yo, I never seen this guy do this ever. When he was on the Knicks, that's why he couldn't see the floor because Tibbs ain't gonna have you out there playing, nonsense
But
defense.
why not? Why not, though? Why didn't he do it back then?
Dad, as we know, defense is about technique and effort. Okay, so every single player on that floor has the ability to be a mediocre defender. Okay, Brunson has the ability to be a mediocre to plus defender, even with all the things he has going against him, just because of his stature and his size. And lack of just like great foot speed. But yet, with all he has to do on offense, he still finds a way to be an acceptable defender on the team. Fournier is not able to do that because he simply doesn't want to. We've seen it over and over and over again throughout our lives watching NBA. Some guys want to be good defenders, and they are. Some guys want to be good defenders. They're given some good physical gifts, and they become great elite defenders. But there's some guys who just have no interest in it. And as you remember, the stats when it came to per game and points against and all those with Fournier on the floor, it was just it couldn't be more telling. The guy, he's a saloon door on defense.
But okay, I think everything you said there is true, facts. But it just mystifies me then that because this guy's about to break a record, that gives you want to, but to stay on the team and to get playing time for the last year and a half, that doesn't give you want to. I mean, if he came out and showed that kind of effort on defense when he was playing with the Knicks, I have no doubt he would have gotten much more time. I mean, that's obvious.
But even with all that effort, Ragu still went for 40. So at the end of the day, maybe it's not just about effort with him. Maybe
He
he's
just
just
doesn't do it well.
right. No matter how hard, and then so that means it's a technique thing, or he's just you can't tell me that physically, he doesn't possess the dimensions or the gifts to be able to play good defense. I don't buy that. So I don't know what it is. There are certain guys though. I've always said this. There's certain guys I think sometimes are our brothers with less melanin in the NBA, they sometimes suffer from this a little bit more, where the other player gets the ball and they just get this confidence and their eyes light up and therefore they just cook these guys like a guy like Novak is a guy who I always said it wasn't as much that Novak was such a terrible defender, but it was also some of the fact that when other teams got the ball and Novak were guarding them, they were like, "Oh, I'm going on this dude." And so I don't know,
He was a terrible defender.
some of it, I think he
Small,
was.
he had slow feet. I mean, come
I
on.
think Novak was a bad defender, but I think his reputation for being such a bad defender just caused guys to go on him more. And I think I see that with Bogdanovich. I think I saw that with Fournier some, where guys just are in attack mode when they get these guys on them, and that's partly because of their reputation. And I think somewhat because of their appearance. But I think that I'm telling you, man, I think that that's part of it. But when it comes to your guy Ragu, I just think that man, he played a fantastic game overall. I don't even understand what Monty Williams. Listen, if you got a chance to break an NBA record, whether it be an NBA record or a team record for the team that you're currently playing for, why wouldn't you go for that? Why wouldn't
Why
you go
wouldn't
for
you?
that? Why wouldn't the entire team support you going for that? And yo, my guy, you got all this stuff to say about the fact that we're going for three. I don't like the way that they went for those threes at the game, and I don't want to be a part of it. Well, you know what you weren't a part of? You weren't a part of the game, okay? Because at one point the Knicks rattled off 20 straight points in the first quarter to basically go ahead and put the game away early, take the confidence of your very injured and without it's basically like their F League team, no doubt. But at the end of the day, yo, man, 20 straight points in the first quarter, you don't call a timeout? What are you letting them play through this? You're not doing anything as a coach to try to stop us from getting off. And guess what? They did the exact same thing, your entire team, when it came to actually wanting to play some defense. And remember, and actually at the end of that 20-0 run that we went on, the next timeout that was called was a timeout by Tom Thibodeau. because he wanted to challenge the call against Precious Achua, a challenge which we won, by the way. So one coach is coaching a certain way, another coach is coaching another way. Supposedly, they have somewhat of a relationship. So I was even more surprised by Monty's post game comments. But yeah, like you said, you're making excuses. As Josh Hart said, maybe y'all need to guard better. And I don't understand why you wouldn't think that this guy is going to go for this record when he's in striking distance in the fourth quarter. I mean, come on, man. I'd be annoyed if they didn't. If Tibbs didn't reinsert him, I'd be annoyed with Tibbs for that.
That's right. It's also about the fans. The fans
Yeah.
wanted this is an entertainment thing. The fans wanted. The fans want to see it. I wanted to see it. I mean, come on, man. It's ridiculous. And you know what? It's silly to say you don't want to be a part of it because guess what? You are a part of it, and you have the power. You are the only entity that has the power to stop it. You know, you're
Yeah.
the only one who can do that. So either do it or don't, but live with the results and then, eat it, man. I'm sorry. But yeah, that wasn't a good look in my opinion. And, Tibbs coach circles around him and, I mean, hey, he's the better coach. I think Monty's a great guy and all that. I personally looking at them play this year, the few times we played them, I don't think they're the greatest coach team. And I understand that they're injured and all that, but you know what, man? They're a professional basketball team. You go out there and like I heard our man Bart Scott, because he's from Detroit, was upset because oh, why did the Knicks do that? They're doing that against a G League team, all that. No, no, no. You put a team out there, to play, and you deal with the results. If we had lost to that team somehow, we'd have been embarrassed by it, right? And it would be, oh, how could you lose to those guys? So listen, whatever happens on the flip side, that's just the other side of the coin, brother.
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple things on that. Did you actually watch the? Did you actually listen to that episode of Bart and Hahn, or did you
Yeah.
just?
No,
I kind of felt like your guy Bart was kind of just. It was kind of sticky for him. I thought he was kind of
I
just.
hope so. Yeah. He was
It was
just
just. It was just the vibe I got from listening to it overall.
he's
But
just
yeah,
trying to rev it up or whatever, get people calling.
yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
and just the whole debate go. Obviously Han's going to take the Knicks side, so he takes the other
Mm,
side, and something for them to go back and forth with. Every caller that called in was like, "Yo, you're bugging. I don't know what you're talking about, Bart. Let's be serious." And they made
right.
the very good analogy of like, "Hey, if you had a guy who was going for a sack record on your team, you're telling me you wouldn't do that?"
It's so silly. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And if Bart could get that record, you damn sure better believe he would get that record, And like the one caller said, nobody remembers all that bullshit with Michael Strahan and him get, and Brett Favre and all that with him laying down. None of that matters, man. He's got the record. That's it. And, that's it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think that it's pretty clear. Anybody who's watching that game that's not, a salty Detroit Pistons fan or, Monty Williams, they're all saying that this is the NBA. Guys are out here, they get paid to make stops. I can guarantee you that Tibbs would never make comments like that after a game. He would talk about what we need to do as far as getting a stop.
That's
That's for
right.
sure.
That's right.
No doubt. And then so the Knicks, like I said, have won three in a row. They took care of business against the Raptors on Wednesday. When talking about that game, and we did have some other guys with some sneaky good games, but it begins and ends with our guy Deuce. Deuce, who didn't seem like he wanted to see that record be held for very long at all by Ragu. He had six threes in the first quarter, ends up being 10 of 17 from behind the arc, 29 points and a sneaky seven assists as well.
Mm-hmm,
My
mm-hmm.
man Deuce, hey, I got to give you all the credit. There's been times where I've doubted him. You have always stuck behind him throughout this entire season and really throughout his entire tenure as a New York Knick. And he is proving to be just a very valuable player. Obviously, a guy who should be in the rotation even when we get into the playoffs with everybody healthy. And the three, it's not a mirage. This is not a dream. This is real. This kid can shoot. And again, Leon Rose, seeing, Tibbs, everybody involved, seeing that we had him waiting in the wings, going ahead and being willing to give up our guy quickly, which we all loved, and which is, which all seemed like such a huge loss at the time. But right now, if you look at their stats recently, and I know quickly is dealing with some sort of personal issues, he hasn't been able to be there. hope everything, whatever that is, it gets better. But at the end of the day, when it comes to availability, you know, our guy Deuce, he seems like the better player, and I mean, he's playing for a fraction of the cost. Signing him to that deal before the rest of the league got to see how good he was. Another masterstroke by your guy, Leon Rose, and yeah, overall, Deuce. He's been getting it done, and it's just been great to see. And like I said, kudos to you for sticking by him all throughout.
Deuce is something else, man. Hey, I'm sorry, but quickly, Grimes, Deuce, Deuce is the best of those three, man. And he's playing. I mean, I don't know. Grimes is still on his rookie contract, right? So he's not getting paid yet. Quickly is going to want some wild money after this season. And remember, early on in the year, they were talking about, oh, Quickly wants like 20 million a year.
No, Quickly was wanting like 29 million a year. Now, like
Right.
allegedly, the Knicks were willing to do about 20, and he was like, "Nah, I want this
He's
money." And
bugging.
now,
He's bugging.
now that
He's not getting 29 million a year. He's not
yo, that
getting
money
29
is
million a year.
coming back quick.
That's
You
right.
you
That's
might
right.
you yeah, you might have got ahead of your
Hey,
skis there.
not just a little bit. And Deuce is just, he's just a heck of a ball player, man. I love everything about his game. And you know what I really like about him? You never see that guy get too excited. He hits big shots, makes big plays. He never even like jumps up in the air or like, pumps his fist too
Yeah,
much.
you're right.
Nothing, man. I've been watching that. He's the most even keel guy you want to see. I do like that in a player, and I just think he's a good player, and he'll be a good player on this team for years to come. I really do. I think so. I think he's a great compliment and a guy that you keep with Brunson. Because he can help. He's not real. And listen, the fact that they can play him on the court together sometimes is great. I mean, the guy he outplays his size. And the fact that he could shoot so well, holy smokes! I wasn't even ready to say that. I mean, come on, man, this guy's shooting ability is, yeah, I'm blown away by it most games. There's times when he makes shots that I cannot believe he just made that shot, and I'm thrilled by it for sure.
And he's not just a catch and shoot guy. He can put the ball on the floor, shoot
Yeah.
the little midi. He can put the ball on the floor, take a step back, shoot the three. And
Yes.
what I've seen from him recently that I love is he's been getting all the way to the rim some more and
Mm-hmm,
finishing in
mm-hmm.
there with authority. I mean, that guy, he can throw it down. He can, get off a nice clean layup. He seems like he's obviously just his confidence is expanding. And I think that part of it is the playing with better players. Him being
Mm-hmm.
inserted into the starting lineup. And now, when you have a guy like Brunson and all the gravity that he has, he's just stepping into a lot more wide open shots. And his release allows him to get shots off that Quick cannot get off with that little
No,
short push shot.
no,
Okay.
because he's coming from here,
Right.
not from here.
He's got that higher, he's got a much higher release and a quicker, like just quickly would get the ball and he just, load up for a second and Quick's not really shooting that off the dribble jump shot very often. And when he did, it always looked a little bit awkward. It's like a whole different form than his 3-point form. I think Deuce with a little bit more consistency in his form gets a little bit more consistency in his shots. And I think that the fact that, you know, he has just a little bit more bounce makes him a much better finisher at the rim. Look, too many times was going for that floater. And it seemed like at one point, like it was amazing. And then all of a sudden he couldn't hit it last year. This year he got a little bit better at it. And I do think that the floater is something that if Deuce was able to add a little bit of float game, like a Brunson float game into his arsenal, that would just really take him to the next level. But that guy continues to develop. He
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
continues to get better, and the confidence is just brimming. The big quick key with him is that if he's gonna do the little, it's got to be one. It's got to just be one. When he's got two, that day, he had like two for like a game, I think one game, and he had a terrible shooting night. It's one of the few that he's had all season. It's got to just be one. He's always moving and messing with it. It drives me nuts sometimes watching it. Speaking of
I
hair,
know.
real quick, before we step up, yo, did you know who? Did you have any idea who Jericho Sims was the first time he
No,
stepped
I
on the
thought it
court?
was. I thought it was Baby Top. I was like, "Why is Baby Top in the game?" I had no idea it was him. I was like, "Okay, come on, unbraid your hair at halftime. Stop, stop."
I had no idea who he was. He looked like a
No
he looked like
idea.
a he looked like a really big Deuce when Deuce has his hair braided down like that. This man,
No
so
idea who that was.
yeah. It was very interesting. Just seeing him with his hair like that out of nowhere. Sims, his minutes are going to come back, and they're going to come back because our guy Mitchy no snitchy. He was back and looking
Love
like him
Mitch.
old self. Only played 12 minutes, but he did have 8 points. Looked like he was very aggressive on offense, putting the
Yeah,
ball on the floor. And his length is game changing when you see it on the floor. I mean, like
yeah. He looks
Hartenstein is
huge out there. He
right.
looks huge.
Hartenstein is big, but when you see Mitch on the floor, he looks so much bigger just because his overall height and the length. And then there was one play where Hartenstein's really good at being on time and therefore being able to block shots and go on them strong. Mitch, there was one play where he came from the weak side and just like snatched somebody's layup off the glass. And it's like, yeah, see, that's different, man. Hartenstein can't quite do that. And
No.
Sims seems like he has the athletic ability to do it, but just doesn't do it. Kind of like Grimes when it comes to his shooting. That was the other thing I was going to
Mm.
say. With Quick, it's not that he's more aggressive. He just has a shot that is it's a better shot because he has a better chance of getting it off on an NBA court. When we're speaking of McBride, and then when it comes to Grimes, he's just more aggressive than Grimes was.
Yeah, yeah.
McBride gives us the aggressiveness that Grimes wouldn't give us, which always was so frustrating. But yeah, getting back to Mitch, nice to see him back. 12 minutes. He looked a little bit heavy and a little slow at certain times, but that's to be, expected coming back from a foot injury and not being able to, do the cardio and everything. But, him being back is just another weapon to add.
Clearly, Mitch has been getting coached up by his old high school coach at home. No doubt about it. He looks good out there. He's definitely been working on him with some offensive and moves to the basket. Like you said, he looks huge out there, huge like Banya. He's going to the hole with authority. The maybe he's working out, on a little lateral moves at home, chasing around his 19 dogs. That could have something to do with it. Who knows? But I'm very happy to have Mitch back. And I read where one of the players was saying that Mitch brings a type of energy to the team that is infectious, and the other guys love it. I just feel like this team is so together. I hope we just get a full complement in the postseason because I'm not putting any caps on where we could end up. I'm not overly like, I'm not screaming championship, but anything's possible with this team, man. I think a lot of people could get surprised by us.
Yeah, speaking of the just overall camaraderie of the team, have you listened to I was listening to it just literally just now on the way home, the episode of the Roommates podcast where they had Isaiah Hartenstein on.
I have not, but I read a lot of it. I read a lot of the stuff on it.
Well, one of the things that I thought was funny is
He's
they talk
bright
about,
skin.
yeah, he's bright skinned. Yeah. Brunson asked him, says, the first question, are you black? And he says, yeah, my dad's black. But I took a lot after my mom, obviously. But yeah, they say I'm not light skinned, I'm bright skinned, which I thought was a hilarious line.
I'm sure
As
he's heard that all his life, or
I mean,
they.
listen, as we know, look at my kids. I got, three biracial kids, and one of them, looks black, and there's the other two where you kind of got to look at them to make sure that you're not quite sure. So yeah, which side you take from with each individual kid can lead to quite the few different shades. But I just think that you listen to that and the way that they give each other shit. The way that they making fun of each other and go back and forth, it's like, yo, these guys are close knit and they're tight, man, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that is so important. As we've said, we have so many different ties from, Brunson to Tibbs to, his dad being there and all the Villanova guys. These guys are a tight knit group. And I noticed that also when I listened to them on the Julius podcast, the week before. And, it just seems like we have the type of culture for the first time when we were so devoid of any type of culture and quite frankly somewhat of had a toxic culture for so many years, and it's good to be on the other side of that. It really is. And Tibbs is going to get his bag this year.
Yeah.
He absolutely should. If I were him, I'd be like, yo, that we need to start talking at that Monty Williams contract, which that contract's a little wild, looking back in hindsight. And Josh Hart, guys, just I think one thing that we got to keep, real, we got to make sure that we, give him credit for is his distribution of the ball. Obviously, these games where he is, ending up with triple doubles, he's having 10 plus assists. So we know, numbers wise, but when you watch, you can see that there's certain times where, especially if they are trapping Brunson or they're trying to deny him the ball, where he goes and gets the ball and then becomes the de facto point guard. He becomes almost like our point forward at that point and might
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily get the assist, but might make the pass that leads to the assist. And I've just really appreciated that part of his game, with obviously Julius, a guy who is kind of like that second distributor, and Brunson being a guy who, he's not a huge assist average guy. He's not a guy averaging 9, 10, 11 assists. So we need another player who sometimes takes on that role. And, Josh, please just shoot the three with confidence. Even if you miss a couple, I need you putting it up. But he's been fantastic all season. And yeah, definitely kudos to him for his ability to, keep that ball moving, because that's one thing that the Knicks, it's stark when we watch the Knicks play, especially since the All-Star break. And, really it started about when we got OG, really. When we got OG,
Yeah.
where all of a sudden it was just whipping the ball around, whoop, 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 whoop. And I think other teams sometimes they get tired trying to deal with that. And I think it just leads to us getting good quality possessions, and especially not putting too much onus on Brunson to just create something for the entire team every single play.
Right. No, we've definitely evolved where that's concerned. And so I'm very happy to see what we're doing there. And Josh Hart, I mean, you can't say enough about this guy. His attitude, his type of play, and his emotion is infectious as well. So, I mean, they right now, this is the best team as far as just watching these guys play together and play on a string and offensively, defensively. I honestly feel since those 90s teams. That team in, was it
Well,
2013
the
was
offense
pretty
looks way
good.
better. The offense looks way better than those '90s teams. That's for sure. The
Well,
offense.
no. I'm just talking about togetherness as a team of guys. I'm not even talking about, the offense in the 90s was terrible. Very
Specifically
shaky
for the
except for
Knicks.
Ewing.
Yeah,
Right. No, but especially for except for Ewing.
sure.
But no, we're just a better team. Got to give big credit to Leon Rose. I mean, he's doing it. I don't think it's a coincidence. You got Leon Rose doing big things over there. Leon spelled backwards is,
Oh well.
I know. Hey, it's the yin and the yang, baby.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even know. I was actually going to ask you what you think about Tibbs getting Coach of the Year, but before we jump into that, Executive of the Year, is there really any? I mean, I guess Sam Presti out in isn't that the
Oh,
no, not San
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma? Yeah, year.
I mean, listen, they have put together a hell of a team there. There was somebody else I heard spoken about recently who they said they thought should get executive of the year. Now, as far as coach of the year, that's a tough one. I mean, who then? So you got to pick a team that obviously has a better record than the Knicks, right? As somebody out west. I mean,
So to me,
what
really,
the coach of Minnesota is probably
yeah,
going to get that nod.
Denault, yeah, Denault has a chance, and then I also think Finch in Minnesota. I think those are, I mean, Finch in Minnesota and Denault from the Thunder. Those are the two guys I think
Yes.
that have a chance. I think to go ahead and win the. I mean, I just think also because Tibbs got it a couple years ago, so therefore,
Yeah, he's not going to get it.
yeah, he's not going to get it again. But I mean, there's a great argument that can be made for him. We've been missing
100%.
two of our starters the entire, the
That's
entire
right.
second half almost, or at least the entire post All-Star break. And Julius has missed 20 something games. OG's missed, 15 to 20 games, somewhere in that range. And Tibbs has not just kept us together, but we're in third, we're in third right now. And I also think that, hey man, if we do end up somehow running this out and getting all the way to the second seed, now I think that needs to be a real conversation. Okay, now I think
Yeah.
now I'm not so passive on he probably won't get. Now I'm screaming it from the mountaintops like, yo, what's up with my man Tibbs? Why is he not the coach of the year?
Yeah, Doc. Yeah. I mean, they need to figure it out. I was surprised, Nick, and it's kind of made me sit up and think. With today's game against San Antonio, we better be paying attention. A lot of my friends at work, obviously, are Phoenix Suns fans. They're distressed about the state of the Suns, and they've lost to the San Antonio Spurs 3 times this year, and
Mm-hmm.
the last time without Wimpy. I don't get that, man. What is going on over there? I don't get it, man. They got to pull themselves together. Anyway,
Yeah, listen, I mean, as we know, that team has zero culture. They have zero culture,
right.
and the guys that they have, my man, hold on. I'm looking this up. Tibbs is not even on the friggin' map when it comes to NBA Coach of the Year. NBA Coach of the Year, I'm looking at the odds right now. He is, he's not top seven. I don't get that. I
Who's
don't get
who's
that.
ahead of him? Who's ahead of him?
Odds right now, you got Denault first. You got Jamal
Who?
Mosley plus 600.
Jamal Mosley. Who? Who's he the coach of?
Jamal Mosley is the coach of He is the coach of the Magic. Magic, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. I've never heard that guy's name before in my life.
And
I mean, as far
especially
as the coach.
Well, especially if they continue to fall off. The Magic have now lost a couple in a row, and I think they're a couple games behind us. I think how it ends up finishing in the East should really have a lot to do with how that plays out as far as who gets that award. But like the other thing about Tibbs that I think is crazy is once again the Knicks are finishing strong, but yet everybody is always talking about how Tibbs runs his players into the ground.
Right.
We're 11-5 since the break. He's got a 600 winning percentage as a Knicks coach in the second half of the season or post All Star break, and
Right.
yet we're running everybody into the ground. It's just another way to show that that is just a lazy narrative, as we said many times, and it is
False
just
narrative.
really, really like yeah. I mean, how is it that Joe Mazzulla, okay, I get that. Chris Finch, we talked about before. Tyronn Lue, Rick Carlisle, JB Bickerstaff. Those cats shouldn't be ahead of Tibbs when it
JB
comes.
Bickerstaff.
Yeah,
Wait, who does he coach again?
Cleveland,
I mean, come on. Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Okay, they lose Donovan Mitchell, and they're in the tank.
Right, right.
We
And
lose
Cleveland was
a couple
streaking,
of
but
our
that
guys.
right. And
Come
now, and
on,
now
man.
we're ahead of them. In the standings. Come on, man. That is just the
JB
odds, so that
Bickerstaff.
But Vegas is not usually that far off. They usually have a general idea what they're talking about. And
And
Tibbs not
Missoula, he hasn't done anything so great. I mean, he's coaching Boston. They're so
well.
talented.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah. But when your team is by far and away, the best record in the NBA,
Right.
that guy's going to be involved in the coach of the year talk always.
I get it, but I don't think he deserves it.
I don't think so either. And I'm telling you, the Celtics, especially with the way that they shoot, their propensity to not step up in big games, and
Mm-hmm.
the way that they lose close games, and they've been losing a few close games to some inferior opponents. And even though they had 30-point leads as of late,
Wow.
I think they're prime for the picking, man, when it comes to the playoffs. And I just think
Right.
that I just think Tibbs has done a great job. I think that there's times uh, where there's never gonna be a coach that I'm gonna be like I love everything that he does, but I will take
No.
whatever the supposed cons are with Tibbs, I will take them all day. And now we got Wemby going against the Spurs tonight. That is going to be an interesting game just because first of all, the Knicks have played so well recently, which whenever that happens, I'm always getting a little bit like, okay, is the stinker
I
coming?
know. I
Like
know.
is the 73 points against the Magic coming? Is that game against that we lost against the Sixers? Is that type of game coming? But we have been taking care of business against the inferior teams. We worked the Spurs when we saw them earlier this season. I love that we do
Mm-hmm.
have some mitts to be able to throw at Wemby, a guy with
Yes.
that type of length. And we just gotta stop this guy Wemby from just like going off, going crazy. And if you can stop that team from hitting threes, then typically we're gonna have a good chance. And it doesn't seem like we ever give up over 100 points anymore. So hopefully we can. We gave up 101 last game, but we scored 145. So
Yeah.
I
We'll
think
live
it'll
with
be a
that.
wash. Yeah, we'll
We'll
live
live
with
with that.
that. And hopefully we can win this game. My prediction was Julius. Like I said, they would not be continually working him out and doing all these things if they did not think that he was going to come back this season. I've seen so many people online float. They're like, "Oh, he's never coming back." There's no way that they would have him working out like on the road before games, before getting a good lather out there and going through a full workout if they weren't intending to bring him back. My prediction is that he comes back to the game after the Miami game because I don't think that we should let Julius Randle play against the Heat ever again.
No, surely won't come back against the Heat. I am slightly concerned because he hasn't been cleared for contact. I mean, I mean that's going to happen a few days before they actually put him back on the court, right?
I think
So,
even that's going to be somewhat abbreviated though, Dad, because I think that they're going to take with the other guys, you clear them from contact and, you want them to get in and kind of get back in that rhythm and take some contact. I think with Julius, they're literally going to say, hey, we're going to just hope that this guy doesn't, we're just going to hold our breath. And, we're not trying to get him too many of those like hits to the shoulder before they all count because it's really a ticking time bomb. They probably know that they're going to do surgery in the off season. And I think that it's going to be, I think what I'm saying is that I think the cleared to contact to on the floor is going to be even shorter than we've seen from Mitch and OG here recently. That's
I
just my
like
prediction.
I like that theory. I hope it is correct, and yeah, that sounds like it makes sense to me. I hope I hope you and the trainer are on the same page.
Yeah, I hope so too. But yeah, man, we'll see what happens here in these next few games. It's going to be super important. As we know, the standings in the Eastern Conference, you can go from being second down to seventh, and it's we've got a couple games away from the Orlandos and the Pacers of the world, but it's only a couple games, and
That's
things can
right.
change really quickly. And yeah, once again, to all the Tibbs haters who were saying that we needed to sit this guy here, this guy needed to play less minutes, where would we be with a couple more L's right now?
That's right.
Every single game counts. It doesn't matter if it happens in April or if it happens in October. At the end of the year, you are the sum of all of those parts, and it all matters. And when it could be the difference between us being in the play-in or having home court advantage or maybe even avoiding Boston until the conference finals. And obviously, all of those things are major factors and major keys in what we're able to do this season. So back off my guy Tibbs. Stop with the bullshit, and it's about winning games out here, man. And I'd much rather have a coach whose mindset is about getting dubs as opposed to thinking about these world class athletes not being able to play 40 minutes in a night. Man, later for that shit. It's time to go. Let's go. Stay off my guy Tibbs.
I found it interesting. They said, we're talking about when Hart and when Deuce played the entire game, and they said the player who played the most entire games for a season was 72 games by Wilt Chamberlain. He played 48 minutes for 72 games.
And he
Now,
probably averaged 50 and 35 that season.
right. But now, of course, JJ Redick would say he's playing against plumbers and firemen, but still, it's a stark number, and you're right. Everything you said there about Tibbs and the fact that, all these people who bitch and moan, Nick, they bitch and moan, but they don't bitch and moan with the results, and Tibbs is going to get his bag, like you said. And listen, like I said, sky's the limit this year. Let's just roll the ball out there and see what happens.
Yeah. OG's making me nervous, man. I need how much
Very
longer.
nervous.
I'm hoping that they just have they literally with those two guys with OG and Randall, like the Knicks have a schedule in their head and this is what they're going to do. Obviously, with OG, that would be something that would have to be a newer development because they did bring him back and was hoping that he would get back. I just I I appreciate the fact that the Knicks have a tight ship as a plan as a fan. Sometimes it can get a little frustrating, just like not getting of like a time frame. But hey man, that's what it is. That's how Leon decides to do it. You gotta trust in your guy.
Yeah, I'm good with all of that, man. We don't need the extra noise. Just keep running the show nice and quiet, Leon. You're in control. Keep doing the job.
Mets today, opening day, lose 3-1 at Citi Field to the Milwaukee Brewers. Quintana, 4.2 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 Ks, 2 walks. Mets only were able to muster 1 hit the entire day. That 1 hit was a home run by our guy, Starling Marte. He also fell just short of hitting a game tying home run later on in the seventh inning. Warning track power. It's only one game, one of 162. But the Mets, who typically are not even one of the most, they are the winningest team on opening day in MLB history. Take the L today. And what do you think of the overall game? I know you got a chance to watch. And yeah, what do you think of our performance today?
It was disappointing, obviously, but I mean, hey, it's the first game. We usually win on opening day, and a lot of those times the rest of the season doesn't go well. So maybe we're getting the flip side here. We just couldn't hit the ball. We were just not catching up to the ball. I felt like we were behind on a lot of pitches. We
Yep.
were
Yep.
late. It looked like we hadn't had spring training, and they had.
Right.
So I'm not sure what that's all about, but I'm hoping, that's just a one game thing and we'll get out of it. I was not happy with the Reese Hopkins play. Did you see that?
Yo, man, that was a crazy,
That was so
dirty
dirty. That was so
slide.
dirty.
And it's not even about breaking up the play at that point.
Come on.
You're
It was so
sliding
late.
that late,
No shot.
spikes up. And
Spike
it's
up.
the first day of the season. If McNeil's leg is planted right there, who knows what happens? Like if McNeil's leg is like planted in his, he was able to lift his leg a little bit and take that and pick it up as he. If his leg is planted deep in there and he gets that right there, that could be an ACL, that could be a broken bone in that in that little like lower shin ankle area.
Yeah.
And I mean, come on, man, Reese Hoskins, you're an infielder just like he is, and it's the first day of the season. I understand trying to break up a play. But what I don't understand is with this new rule that you can't be in front of the bag if you can't block the bag. How is that on the flip side not something that is illegal? Make it fair for both sides to be able to both play the game the right way, but also protect themselves. I thought that was crazy dirty. I love the fact that Squirrel got a little fiery, and I hope we get angry about it and we come back and we win this series, take these next couple games from the Brewers. And I just thought, man, I thought it was Bush League. I thought it was Bush League, and obviously, as Met fans, we always go back to Ruben Tejada and that piece of shit Chase Utley, and I'll always speak of him that way. Whenever I speak of him, he's my least favorite baseball player of all time. And I just think that there's just no, they're trying so hard to get that out of the game. You know what? 10, 15, 20 years ago, that slide is perfectly fine, but that's not how the game is played anymore. And if you're going
Sure.
to make it and make rules specifically to try to, mitigate and eliminate things like that, then it has to work all the way around. And it's fact that that was, over that was looked at. And it's again, why is that not interference? And why is that not, the new rule where that should have been automatically a double play? I don't get that. There was also a play at first where they blocked the bag and
Mhm.
and we're trying to get back. Yo, man, I just again, first of all, stuff that's not reviewable, I don't get. Everything should be reviewable. And that was a dirty slide by Reese Hoskins. And I hope one of our pitchers puts one right between his numbers tomorrow.
I agree with you, and I'm not one usually to call for something like that, but I think that's necessary. That has to be the right situation, obviously, but yeah, I would definitely, plunk him tomorrow. There's no doubt about that. What he did, he could have seriously injured Squirrel on both legs. Okay, the leg with that got hit with his cleat, with the high cleat, and the front leg, which he could have broke his flipping his knee, or like you said, the lower shin area. I mean, it was Bush League, man, as far as the game is played today. I mean, if that's Pete Rose, it's all good. But it's not Pete Rose and Buddy Harrelson at second meeting at second base anymore. It was really, really shitty. And then, just his act afterwards,
With the come on,
yeah, yeah,
man. That
you're acting like you're some sort of tough guy. We got to find out about that, you
Yeah,
know?
right. That's what I'm saying. That when you want to do that type of shit, okay, we need to have one tossed right between your numbers tomorrow. Nice four seamer, and it's his first at bat. Unless he comes up with the bases loaded, his first at bat that needs to happen, and I think that needs to happen for us to show something as a team. That's one of the biggest criticisms that people had of Buck is that we didn't respond to other people when they did dirty shit by throwing at them. And I think that's part of baseball. When last year we lead the league in our guys getting hit, and we've had seasons derailed by guys getting hit by pitches, and we never seem to respond. And I think that we need to send a message to the entire major leagues right now that this shit is not going to fly again. This is over. This Mendoza's here now, and this is how we do things. We're not letting that shit happen anymore.
So you think that needs to be a mandate from Mendoza, not just the players in the locker room,
I think that I think that needs to be a mandate for Mendoza because I think that I think the players should do it, and I would hope that they do. But I think that if it doesn't happen, at the end of the day, it falls on the manager.
right?
So, at the end of the day, when you go and you see how that play played out, his act afterwards, I'll be interested to see what kind of comments he has, now in the media. And hey, if it means that our starting pitcher gets thrown out, because the umps are going to be looking at it, if it means he gets thrown out of the game and we got to bring somebody else in, oh well, man. It's a long season.
That's the part.
But we got to make sure that we can't. It's about sending a message for the rest of the season, and it's about not being looked at as soft and being looked at as an organization that is not going to let you do this type of bush league shit to our guys. I'm sorry, if Terry Collins was the manager, I bet we throw at him.
Right. And the thing is, you can't decide you're going to do it in the fourth inning or fifth inning when our reliever comes in or
No, no,
whatever.
no, no,
Yeah,
no.
no, you have to do it immediately if you're going to do it.
I have to do it immediately. And I'm being very interested to see if we do that tomorrow. And it's going to tell me something about this guy Mendoza, and it's going to tell me something about overall. Because I like listen, if I'm Stearns, I'm having a conversation with Mendoza about that tonight. I'm saying, listen, man, we got to make sure that we send a message here, and we got to handle this properly. And I think that's also something that will galvanize the entire team. I got hyped up when I saw the benches start to clear and the bullpens coming up. You know what I mean? Me personally, and I hope that we get out there and we do that. Let the benches clear. Let's get some guys in some tussles, whatever, and let's go, man. Let's get a collective team feeling of we. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what this is about. This is a we thing. This isn't what just happened with McNeil. And we need McNeil to bounce back and have a big year this year. We need, guys like Alonso to have a bounce back and have a big year this year. And we need to show them right now that as a team, as an organization, as individuals, that we support them and we support each other. Got to get it done.
No argument here. I mean, I will never know, but it'll be interesting if this, whether or not they really talk about this after the game. I mean, as a team, as the manager and the general manager, like you said with Stearns, I mean, or are they just going to try to act like, okay, we need to move on and we're not going to talk about this?
Do
And,
you mean in the
you
media
know,
or do you mean
no,
like,
no, I'm talking
okay,
about within themselves. We won't
okay.
know about this. Right. And I'm hoping that they are talking about it. And listen, you don't have to get all fired up, but they need to say, okay, guys, we know and like I said, Mendoza will never, I don't think, as a manager, he's not going to say to his players, you need to throw one between his numbers. He's just going to talk to his team, hopefully, and just say, guys, we know what we need to do. And there shouldn't need anything more to be said. This is the bigs, it should be pretty straightforward from there.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. I think that's how it will. Listen, I don't know, but we will see.
Yeah.
And the over under on the Mets is 81 and a half games this year. And
Mm-hmm.
so you tell me why you think we're going to win more than 81 and a half games, because I know you're not going to say less.
Oh, well, listen, my thing is I'm hopeful that we win more than 81 and a half. It comes out to the starting pitching. They can first starting pitching, well, hitting too. But I mean, I don't know, man. I do think just looking at it today, looking at DJ Stewart at our DH position, I can't wait till JD gets here.
Yeah.
We need him. I mean, I feel like a guy like JD Martinez today is the kind of game where he would have gotten one hit that we just needed somebody to get things rolling. And sometimes that's all the Mets need, and they don't seem to have that. I'm hoping JD Martinez can be that guy for us. And then I'm hoping that, I mean, I didn't think Quintana pitched such a terrible game today. We just got nothing on offense.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. We have to be able to score 2 or 3 runs in a game. That's it. So I don't know. We're going to win more than 81 and a half. I wouldn't bet the house. How about that?
I think that what it's going to come down to, I think more so than the pitching, I think it's going to come down to the hitting. And I think it's going to come down to, as I have said over and over again, I think it's going to come down to Marte, his availability. And, obviously throughout the last few years, it's a stark difference between what we are on offense and defensively when we have him and when we don't. And it's going to be about guys like Squirrel and guys like Pete, average wise, who were two of
Yes.
the three biggest decreases in overall average in MLB baseball last season from the prior season. And this year, they need to get back up to, their typical numbers. We need these guys
Right.
to get those hits. And the thing that you said as far as JD is spot on, because one of the things about him throughout his career, he gets better when it's, the later in the game, the bigger the situation. I mean, all of his numbers when it comes to with men on base, when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to with two strikes, when it comes to, seventh inning and on,
Mm-hmm.
he is a clutch hitter. And
Mm-hmm.
we needed that one big clutch hit. We had a few balls that, got to the warning track, couple, balls that, seemed like they had a chance to drop in that were, the guy makes a pretty good play on. Nimmo had a couple of those himself. And at the end of the day, we got to get those timely hits. I mean, that's the name of the game in baseball. Timely pitching, timely hitting, and we really, really have to have some guys have not just typical years, but a couple guys have good years, and then everybody else kind of get to that typical number that we're used to seeing. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
pitching is actually going to be a little bit better than expected. One thing that I did notice today was, Drew Smith and Tonkin, they both looked very good out of the pen, lights out really. Lopez, not so much. He comes in immediately, gives up that, double on his first pitch, and then they were able to tack on an extra run there. And at the end of the day, like you said, you score one run, you're not going to win many games. So we're going to have to score some more
Period.
runs. If we have a game where we can give up only three, especially with Quintana as the starter, that's a game that we need to be able to figure out a way to win. So it's going to be
Yeah.
about the offense and what they can do. And, we'll continue to see as the games go by. But it's great to have baseball back. I love opening day. Sucks that the Mets had to do it a day late this year due to the
Mm. Rain
the
out.
weather back east. That's why the Mets as a team typically, I saw before that Pete Alonso, this is his first time ever having opening day at home, and I was like, wait, what? That's craziness. But it's just because we plays, on the East Coast, and they typically try to get as many of those games out west as they can because they know the weather's going to be better. One thing that's crazy though. The New York, I don't understand why all these places in New York that we're building stadiums, all of them should be retractable. Every single one.
Yeah, probably not a bad idea.
And I mean, I heard Bart and Hahn talking about this earlier, so I'm
Hmm.
piggybacking off of them a little bit. But yeah, man, like the fact that we have some of the worst rated facilities in the
Unreal.
in the New York, New Jersey, the tri-state area, it's kind of wild, man. Like, yo, we got the money, man, and we got the money. We charge the most for everything. How
Hmm.
about having some state of the art great facilities? And then also, that's just going to lead to more things. If we had a great facility with a retractable roof, you're telling me we wouldn't get more than that one Super Bowl we've had like my entire life? We'd get more Super Bowls, we'd get more Final Fours, we'd get all these types of things. But we
Hmm.
have mediocre facilities, and the one facility that's the really good one, the Garden, it's just in such a tough spot. Like it's hard to get to. Having a Final Four there would be a logistics nightmare as compared to having it somewhere like Indiana or out here in Arizona, where they're newer cities that are built in a grid where the entire downtown and hotels and everything's all just right there and everything funnels right to it. So I get that part, but when it comes to where the Met, out in City Field, when it comes to specifically City Field and MetLife Stadium, there's no reason why we couldn't build something that both has something in play to be able to deal with inclement weather and also gives a surface that is top notch and not, something that has such a terrible reputation like ours do currently.
Yeah, no doubt. MetLife in particular, I think is terrible. I like City Field because I like the field, I like the stadium and everything. But you're right, having a retractable roof on that would be helpful. But MetLife, especially because it's a football stadium and played during, during the winter. Yeah, definitely, that should be a retractable stadium. I don't feel as strongly about City Field, but MetLife, when it was built, and beyond it not being a retractable stadium, it's just an ugly stadium inside
Yeah,
and out. It's just
yeah.
not attractive. When you look at the other stadiums that were built around the time for $1 billion, I don't know. I just feel like these other cities or states got so much more out of their $1 billion than we did. I don't get why they just built such a drab stadium. I don't understand. I mean, the look at that stadium in Vegas, which I've only driven by, never been in there, and the pictures I've seen of like the stadium in Texas and like that SoFi Stadium. Holy
Yeah,
smokes, these things! The SoFi Stadium looks like a spaceship.
right.
And our stadium it's just a concrete structure. That's it. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's hard to understand, and why we don't do the same thing as Arizona when it comes to the field that you can that you can take
Move in
out and
and
put back
out.
in. It just seems like it makes so much sense. And when you go to the Meadowlands, it's like, yo, it's just a bunch of parking lot space. There's plenty of space here to be able to do that. It seems like
Right.
they should be able to do it, but yet we don't. And it's very, very frustrating as a fan. Like you said, it's New York. It's everything should be top of the line. It seems to me though that it's a little bit of arrogance on ownership of the fact that we have these rabid fan bases. They're not trying to draw people with the stadium because they know that we have these rabid fan bases and this huge population of fans that we're going to fill the seats all the time. We're going to have great concerts here and stuff like that all the time. And so therefore they're not trying to, add all the bells and whistles when it comes to the actual structure and its amenities. And it's just unfortunate because it's like I said, with all the money that it costs to go to these games, and to be able to even just be in the places to be able to attend the game. It's not just the fact that like it costs so much more to get to the game. Flying to New York, staying in New York, New Jersey, anywhere around there, that all costs more too. So at least give us a great fan experience when we go to the actual place. And that's one thing I do give the, Madison Square Garden credit for is they have all of the built-in fandom, both when it comes to concerts and when it comes to sporting events, specifically the Knicks, and yet they still took some time to upgrade and spruce up the garden, and it looks a lot better. It's a lot cooler,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot more going on in
Mm-hmm.
there. So I do at least like that they did step up and do that. The football teams in our area can take a page out of their book.
No doubt. And I mean, it comes down to the Jets and Giants being willing to spend the money because I don't know if now with MetLife, you can't put a retractable roof on there or install the sliding in and out stadium, the surface. I think it would cost so much to do that. You might as well rip it down and build a new stadium. But they just built that stadium. I mean, MetLife is how old right now, Nick? That's 10 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. They're not trying to build a whole new stadium and spend another $1 billion in this, in the next 5 years. So we need to learn to live with it because it ain't going to change. It ain't going to change. They're not spending $1 billion twice in 15 years. No way.
I'm reading right now that the cost of building a retractable roof can range from tens of millions to hundreds of millions of dollars or more, depending on the stadium's features and requirements. I mean, they make
I'm saying,
so
Nick, you're going to retrograde this now and spend like 300 million. I
right.
don't know that. I don't know if you want to do that, but I guess it would make sense if you're attracting more more things. But like you say, it may be some arrogance, Nick. MetLife already attracts so much to that stadium because it's in the tri-state area. Well, if you're Woody or the Mara family, what are we doing? Why are we spending money on this? We're already in the catbird seat. What are we doing this for?
For all the reasons that we just said.
I know,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
they're
you can't
like,
tell me that the Colts can have a retractable roof and we can't.
I'm
That's
with
some
you a thousand
bullshit.
percent. But I know that's what they're saying, and they're like, we'll revisit this in 2035.
I mean, listen, we go this year. It's going to be you, and I know that last year statistically it didn't prove out that we were supposedly, that our field was that much more dangerous than any other field. But let us get another huge, injury that can kind of be somewhat attributed to the turf, and that pressure starts getting real loud. And it was pretty loud last year though, and they didn't do shit. So who knows?
That is the greatest chance of us changing the stadium surface. Okay, and
Right.
I don't think that has anything to do with the roof. I think we should just do that anyway, especially with the move in and out thing. If they can figure that out, now that's something I think you spend the money.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It was the noise around that was so loud these last couple of years, and the fact that nothing's been done, that doesn't really make me feel like anything will get done.
well, like you say, if something big happens, a big injury happens again, the noise will get ratcheted up again. Who knows? Nick? I don't know. Can they withstand the pressure? I don't know.
Yeah, but just to close it out on the Mets, listen, I think they have a lot of players with a lot to prove this year. I think a lot of guys had
Mm-hmm.
down years last year. I think you got guys going into contract year, guys on 1 year deals, lots of guys with a lot to prove. And, it's going to be put up or shut up for, each individual and how they perform, whether or not they continue to regress, stay the same, or excel is going to tell the story of the Mets this year.
No doubt about it. We'll see. Fingers crossed. No doubt about it.
So the Jets, they made news earlier this week due to a supposed dust up between Robert Saleh and Woody Johnson. It was reported an NFL, somebody for NFL Network, and I think the report's so bullshit. I'm not even going to give them their name. But they said they heard it from somebody else, which immediately I'm like, I mean, come on, man. You're going to report some shit that you heard from somebody else about seeing that these guys were not hearing it, but just seeing that they were speaking like demonstratively towards each other. I thought that was a little shaky. Then Woody comes out and says there's absolutely no truth to it. I think this is a nothing story. I think this is it's the Jets. And even if they were having a passionate argumentative, looking conversation about something, I don't really care about that. Hey, I'd rather that they have the relationship that they can have heated conversations with each other and that they're challenging each other. I'd rather that be the case than they don't feel comfortable doing that, both each ways, vice versa. So absolute nothing story to me. Did you think that there was anything? Did you have any thoughts on it at all overall?
Total nothing burger. I don't understand a reporter making a report because someone that she spoke to, saw something.
And then
I
gave an
mean,
interpretation of it.
right. First of all, if I'm a reporter, and listen, I'm not a journalism major, but I'm thinking you got to go and you got to go and corroborate that somehow. You can't just report that because someone saw something, didn't hear, just saw something, and all you're doing is speaking back and forth. Who knows what you were talking about? You could have been talking excitedly about a movie you watched last night. I mean, it's ridiculous. And
Right.
now what are you going to tell me? You're reading lips? I mean,
Right.
come on. That's absolutely stupidity. There's nothing to even discuss.
How often have, my mom and my wife, your wife and my wife, how often have they thought that you and I were in a heated conversation when we were just talking about sports and just being, our demonstrative selves, and we're like, we're not upset with each other at all. We just
Right.
kind of disagree on it. You know what I mean? Like they could have been talking about anything.
Silly. It's silly. It's just really, really silly. I'm embarrassed for that, whoever that reporter was. See, that was just a poor job.
Yeah, and I don't think that Woody would have come out as adamantly as he did if there's truth to it. I think you just don't talk about it and let it go away. But I don't think you come out and like adamantly say this is nothing, that was stupid, that never happened,
Mm.
unless that's how you feel.
I would have had no problem if Woody didn't even say anything. Don't even lay credence to it. I mean, it just go away. I mean, as you can tell, it was said a couple of days ago, and I think the real thing what people talk about, at least is what I heard on the radio this morning, is of course Woody responded. I personally wouldn't even have responded, but that's okay. I have no problem with him responding. I just think it's a nothing.
Yeah, no, I did see it get some legs, and I did see like especially in New York Sports Talk Radio, they talked about it a little bit. But I just also think some of that is the time of the year it is right now.
Right.
There's not a ton of story, like, and like I said, it's not a big story, but the big story is that breaking news today, the New York Jets pulled off a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. We have swapped edge rushers. They signed Bryce Huff earlier this season. They have now traded us Hassan Reddick. We now have a third round pick going to them in next year's draft. Conditional, could become a second if he plays 67.5% of the defensive snaps this year. Hassan Reddick, a guy that when he first came in got he got the label of kind of being a bust, and then all of a sudden just turned his whole career around and has now had four very productive years, in the NFL. Been a guy who really does put up huge sack numbers and, 12 and a half, 11, 16, 11 in the last four seasons. He joins a defensive line that was dominant last year and looks to be a playmaker on the opposite end of Jermaine Johnson. What do you think of your man JD dealing with his old team and bringing in an impact edge rusher?
There's no doubt JD is going for it, man. This is a fantastic signing. I mean, he's 3 years older, only 3 years older than Bryce Huff. I don't know, Nick. I know I've seen what I've seen from Hassan Reddick is obviously highlights, and when one of their games is on TV. I've always held a guy in very high esteem. I think he's a very good player. He's good against the run. He can play every down. I don't know. Am I wrong here? Am I misreading this? Is he as good or better than Bryce Huff?
Yeah, he's better than Bryce Huff. He's absolutely
So
better.
then,
I don't think that's
what
a
is
question.
going on here? Why is Philly letting this guy go to sign Bryce Huff? No, no, no. But Bryce Huff got a good amount. Bryce Huff signed for what, 51 million over like 3 4 years. So Bryce Huff is getting a good salary. I don't know. Are the Jets already in conversations to sign this guy for big money? I'm sure they must be. Um, but I wouldn't mind that either. Make him a Jet for the next 4 or 5 years. Let's go. I think it's a great pickup for the Jets. I think that I think that's just a fantastic pickup for the Jets. I think that makes our defense even better. I got no complaints with this. Let's go, Joe Douglas.
So I think that I've read conflicting reports. I read one report that said that the Jets are already in contract extension talks with Hassan Reddick. Um, to me, I think that he's better than Bryce Huff, and I think that when it comes to defensive linemen, quite often what you see is there's always some thing where they're like, yeah, but his pressure rate, and he's so good at getting pressure, and he's good at these things, and blah blah blah. Yo, at the end of the day, man, I need my guy to get home. Okay. I need my guy to make and to secure the sack. All right. And when it comes to doing that, Hassan Reddick is the far superior player. I mean, it's not even close. I
Not even
mean,
close.
and he's shown it consistently now over years with those numbers that I just detailed. I mean, 4 straight seasons of double digits, and that one year where he jumps up to 16. If I'm looking at my guy Bryce Huff, he's had 2, 2, 3.5, and 10 last year. He got up to 10 last year.
Come on,
Okay.
man.
Come on, man. It's not even the same. It's not anywhere close. And, I don't know exactly what the implications are with, you got cap hit and the NFL, the way that the contracts are structured, it's impossible. You got to be like a capologist to be able to understand it. But what I do know is that they weren't willing to dump big money into this guy, Bryce Huff, for the foreseeable future. And now we have a guy who, like you said, on the opposite end of your guy Jermaine Johnson, you're going to have Will McDonald, rotating in, and we know that in the middle of the defensive line, we got some absolute monsters, which is going to lead to Hassan Reddick seeing a lot of one-on-ones, and that is the thing that we have been missing, if anything, with this defense over the last few years, is that one guy who's a big time sack getter. And this guy
Yeah.
is that. And I'm hoping to see with, I'm almost hoping that we don't sign him right now just because I want him coming back on a contract here. And so he's really trying to get
Mm.
out there, really trying to get after it. But regardless, like you said, your man JD is going for it. And, him being a little bit older, it doesn't bother me in the slightest because we're playing in a small window right now, obviously, with our 40-plus-year-old quarterback. So we need to get everybody that we can that can make an impact right now and not worry about 2, 3, 4 years from now.
You're going to have to double him or Jermaine Johnson. You leave either somebody on the island with either of those guys on either side of the line, it's going to be a problem more often than not. Okay, and same with Will McDonald. Okay, that guy can get to the quarterback. So, and something I heard some guys talking about that really made sense, Nick. Like, we're always upset. We're always talking about why does it seem like the Jets receivers can't why does it seem like when we look at them in patterns, there's so many defenders around them, but then other teams, guys are running free. What is that? Why can't we scheme them up better so our guys are getting more open? And I heard one guy make a really simple explanation for that, which will play a part with our defense. Nick, if you have such a shitty offensive line that you're constantly keeping in running backs and tight ends to block, guess what? Those are two less people running out there in patterns. All the guys in the backfield can more blanket coverage your two receivers in pattern. So if we have more guys having to stay in, if we're putting so much pressure and hopefully playing against shitty offensive lines that they have to keep in multiple guys to block to help, where they only have two guys going in pattern, guess what? That's going to make our defense better, and that's going to cause more turnovers. I think this is a huge win for the Jets. Any way you look at it, I think if we play 67% of the downs and we have to give up, give up a second round pick, that's just fine. And the other thing is, I heard one stat today. He has missed one game in his career.
Yep.
One game.
Yep.
Come on, man. We'll take that all day. I'm almost a little nervous for the fact that why would Philly let this guy out the door? I don't get it. I don't get it, man. I mean, and for Bryce Huff, who I think is a good player, but come on, man. I don't get it, man. Not with that team where they're so close and you're making this slight dollar decision. I think we're going to see a couple of games this year where Bryce Huff is getting blown the fuck up on a running play, and they're going to be like, "Where's Hassan Reddick?" Okay, I'm sorry. I like Bryce, but he's not the player that Hassan Reddick is.
No, he's not. And yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying there. And I think that I'd like to see some of the breakdown of like how much money it costs. It'll save Philly. It happened just before we got on air here, so
Mm-hmm.
those type of articles and stuff haven't come out yet. But I'd like to see the breakdown on how much money it saves Philly as far as their cap hit this year. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll see. One thing I like about the Jets going into the season is we're doing all of these things but I don't think anybody is going to be saying, you're picking the Jets to get to the Super Bowl this year. And I like that.
No.
Keep us a little bit more under the radar,
Yes.
and keep us just getting out there and getting things done. No hard knocks, none of that. Let's just get
Yep.
it done. Let's have a game on Sunday at 1 o'clock. No late game, no Monday night game, no Thursday night game, none of that shit. Just have a regular normal game with a bunch of other games on at the same time, and let's just get to work. Looking forward to the Jet season, and hey, still got the whole draft, which is something to get excited about. And we'll be bringing you definitely a lot of draft coverage, not only from the Jets' point of view, but just overall where we think some of the quarterbacks slot in as we get closer to that. What do you think of March Madness so far? Any big thoughts?
Connecticut is a world beater. They're excellent. I really haven't looked at it recently, Nick, but I don't know as far as brackets go. Could they possibly face Purdue in the final? If they
Yeah,
could, that would be the final I would choose to see, because they seem like the toughest teams to play.
yeah, they'll play. Yeah, if they could, yeah, they're on opposite ends enough that they would be able to play against Purdue.
Right, that would be
Purdue plays
entertaining.
Gonzaga here shortly for a chance to get to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, I think Purdue will beat Gonzaga, but I mean, listen, there have been some good teams, and again, I think that you're seeing more and more that more mature teams are doing better in the NC2As. Now, listen, the NBA poaches young guys who they think are world beaters after their first year. I get that. No reason for those guys not to go to the league and make their money when they can, although with the NIL now. But it's still not as much as NBA money. But I think that more mature teams with more third and fourth year players are we're seeing it in the NC2As are more successful because basketball is a game that we talk about all the time, and you can have all the talent in the world if your guys don't play together, play smart, play good defense. That talent is really going to have to shine for you to win consistently against a team that plays smart, plays good defense, and plays together. It's just the nature of the game. That's part of why it's such a beautiful game. I mean, I'm sure you've played on many a game, Nick, or many a team where you feel like you have superior talent, but then some team that for some reason plays so well together comes out there and just moves the ball well and does things so well. It doesn't matter if you're bigger or smarter or, unless the differences are so extreme, they beat you, and it happens, it's a beautiful game.
Yeah. Ocean County's team back when I played AAU and I played on that Monmouth Magic team that was like number 4 in the states that one year. And that Ocean County team, they were a bunch of small kids. They ran crazy back doors all the time and they played together from the time they were young. And that was the team. We were more talented than them, but there was one time when we beat them more than they beat us, but there was a time where they got us. And it was just exactly that. Now we did play in their home gym, and I'm pretty sure some of their, one of the kids' uncles was the head referee. But that being that,
There you go, blaming the refs again.
I hate all referees. I don't like a referee. When I see a dude working at Foot Locker, I want to start yelling at him. I don't like any referee. I don't like none of them. None of them. But yeah, nah. Yeah, man. There's definitely something to be said for what you're talking about as far as those teams that stick together and have that camaraderie and have some years playing together, especially playing together under a good coach and a good system, are the teams that are starting to be the ones that are more successful in March Madness. Like you said, you got your one and dones. They're going to be the NBA picks. Then you're going to have these guys that go play in the G League elite teams. They're going to be those number one picks in the NBA. And then you're going to have a lot of the foreign guys as well. So when you look at the first round over the last few years, it's littered with guys, that are, one of those categories. But when it comes down to the teams that are starting to be successful and consistently win in college, we're seeing that a lot more being those guys that have stuck together and played together for a few years. So yeah, there's definitely something to be said for that. I think that's a good trend, obviously, in college basketball because it's the opposite of what I've liked to see over the last few years. I would still like to see somehow the one and done. Not, my thing is one and done has to always exist. You have to be allowed to do that. My thing is just go ahead and make it so that guys can go straight out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so that those guys can go ahead and just go and the college game can be a different thing. And then we'll still see some of those guys who stay become great NBA players. The Knicks have a few of them on our team. Those guys who stayed for a few years. We have Julius as our one and done. Do we have another player who's a one and done? Well, Mitchell never actually even played college ball. Because
No.
Mitch, because Mitch got there was a weird story with him when he first came out, and a few
Too
different
many
things going on with
dogs.
that. Yeah, but too many dogs. I mean, but did he have? Listen, he's got mostly rots, right?
No, I don't know. Yeah, he has some Rottweilers I've seen, but I think he's got a bunch of just a total array, like a canine farm.
He's somewhere out in either Jersey or Westchester County, and just like he's
Yeah,
got a nice piece of land. Because I always see him, he's always riding around in his lifted trucks, and he's
yeah.
always he's one
The
of those
big
guys that
rims.
yeah, with the big rims. He's always posting pictures of different country songs he likes. He's a different type cat, man, and I'm
Oh,
glad that he's back. As the players have said, there's a certain energy that he brings that's totally unique, both with the way he plays the game and just his overall personality. So it's good to see him
no
back
doubt.
for sure.
No doubt.
Last but not least, we are going to talk about your all-time favorite player in the NBA, Draymond Green. Wednesday night against the Magic, gets thrown out just over 3 minutes played in the game, and he gets ejected for two consecutive technicals. I read his lips and I saw what he said. I think it's a wild thing for him to be screaming at this even in it's not the right setting or the right place for you to be using that term, in my opinion. I'm not sure if you read his lips, but it's not something I'll repeat on here. We're not quite a family show, but we won't go that far. But yeah, man. I mean, this guy Draymond, what I thought was the most interesting thing, and we're paying a little bit more attention to this game than usual because they're playing against the Magic, who are right behind us in the standings, and we're like, "Yo, come on, man! Like, we don't need you getting tossed that early." The Dubs were able to take care of business and win 101-93. Steph hit the dagger late. I thought Steph's reaction right after it happened, he looked like he was about to cry. I mean, he
Yeah.
legitimately looked
Some
as
said
if
he
he was
did cry.
about. Yeah, I mean, yeah, some people. I mean, I'm not gonna say I saw a tear streaming down his face or I saw him blubbering, but he definitely, looked very upset and put the shirt over his face and was just, and was very demonstrative. And then I saw Steve Kerr's his comments
Comments.
afterwards saying that like, yo, he should have gotten thrown out. He did everything he needed to do to get thrown out. I saw Draymond's apology where he said some shit about how he tried to turn his way so that he was looking and not yelling directly at him, which I just think that's just asinine of him. Draymond did say that I cannot do that. That he did say that, at least I cannot do that. But at this point, you saying that after the fact, Draymond, it doesn't really do anything for you or for anybody else when it comes to their perception of you. It's just he's a broken record with this guy at this point, and he's costing his team. They're in the they're they have the real possibility of falling outside of the play-in, especially with the way Houston has been playing recently, and he's still pulling this type of shit. What did you think about Draymond? What did you think about his not only his antics but the reaction from everybody involved?
I think it's ridiculous, obviously. I mean, Draymond, man, honestly, Nick, what it comes down to, and I'll go full circle with this, um, they're they're on the brink of falling out of the play-in with Draymond. Why do you need this guy? Why do you need this guy if this is how well you're doing with him? It's one thing when he's kicking guys in the nuts and getting thrown out of the finals, but you're getting to the finals with this guy. He's a vital part of a finals team.
Yeah.
If he is a vital part of a ninth or 10th place team, and he's causing you all this anguish, I mean, I'm sorry, man. Let Kuminga play that spot. You know, what's his name? Steph Curry doesn't deserve to have to deal with this kind of bullshit in the waning years of his career. And I'm sorry that, some people say, well, Steph Curry's not enough of a leader. I did feel like when Draymond was getting at that ref, I didn't understand why somebody didn't just get to him and just like start pushing him back, take him away. But you know what? You know what, Nick? If you do that, and I know exactly why somebody didn't do that, because if you do that to Draymond, you don't know how he's going to react towards you.
Nobody's trying to
He's
be the
that.
next Jordan Poole.
That's right. He is that guy that, as a teammate, if you try to chill him out like that, he might do some crazy like oak shit and chop your arm down.
Right.
I mean, some shit that you don't know what he's going to do. So that's why nobody stepped up. And then you get thrown out. Oh, I know I can't do that. That's absolute bullshit. I don't want to hear that from. Okay, that's obvious. Everyone knows that. You're a grown-ass man. You can't control yourself, then you can't control yourself. But then what really made me bum me out, actually, Nick, is that they showed video after the game of Steph Curry walking into the locker room and Draymond doing the Steph Curry thing to him like this that Steph Curry did on the court and smiled, and then they hugged and embraced and whatnot. I mean, I'm sorry, man. If I'm Steph Curry, I see Draymond doing it. I'm like, yeah, okay, man. And I keep walking into the locker room. You know, I mean, dude, man, there has to be some retribution. It doesn't seem to me like anybody's saying to this dude, like, yo, dude, man, that shit's done, man. That shit's played, bro. I don't want you cheesing and smiling and glad handing me after that bullshit, man. You bailed on us, man. That's exactly what he did right there. We've seen guys, Nick, where I pointed out to you your entire life from when you're young playing, watching ball, that there's sometimes when guys, Nick, will commit stupid fouls and commit and do stupid shit to get themselves thrown out of the game. And I'm convinced that sometimes, although they probably wouldn't admit it to themselves, they wanted out of that game. They wanted out. And I don't know why Draymond would have wanted out of this game. But dude, man, it's not even like it was a physical act, Nick. And it's not even like somebody fouled him. His teammate fouled somebody else, and it was a legitimate call. It was a foul.
That's the thing. It wasn't an egregious call. I can't see how he would have wanted out 3 minutes into the game. But what I do see is that, listen, man, this guy simply cannot control himself. He's not in control of his emotions and his actions. And
I
that's
can't have
why,
him around.
when other guys have said things like, maybe he needs to talk to somebody, when you can't control yourself like that, we got to start having that conversation about you, Draymond. And I think another illustration of that, I noticed this. So yesterday, your boy Big Perk was on McAfee, and they asked him about Draymond. Now, Big Perk is a guy who led the league in technical certain seasons, and they talked about overall the amount. And these numbers might be a little bit off, but Draymond had like somewhere in the 140s as far as technicals. Big Perk had like a little bit over 100. He had like less than 110 as far as technicals in their career. But the thing that I saw that I thought was interesting is that Big Perk only had 2 ejections. Draymond's got 19 ejections.
That's right.
So that's the thing. You have to understand that you just got to tech and say, I can't get myself thrown out of this game right now, especially not over a ticky-tack foul in the first quarter. Man, come on. There's so much more game to be played. We've only played less than 4 minutes. What are you doing?
So important.
At that point, whether or not you're saying, hey, I want to bail on my team, or you just are an asshole and you can't keep it together and you just don't have no control of your emotions, either way, you're bailing on your team right there. You have to know that with my reputation and with the fact that I'm yelling and calling this dude what he was calling him at the time, which is absurd, there's no way that the ref can let you scream that at him and not call a technical foul. There's just
in your face like this.
Right? Like right there. Come on, man. You
Yang,
can't do
yang,
that.
yang, yang, yang,
And then
yang.
as he's being taken off the floor, he's still yapping and all that other shit. And it's just like he's
Who
got
do you
to.
think you are?
That's the other thing. If I was somebody with the league, I would say like, I would say to Draymond, hey man, next time you get tossed out, if you don't shut your mouth and walk off the court, we're suspending you a couple games. How about that?
That's
Because
right.
it's
That's right. They need to get harsher with him. They need to drop the hammer on him, Nick. Definitely. Two things. Perk, okay? Perk, I guarantee you, if you look back at all those technicals he got technicals because he did some physical shit with somebody on the court. And they called a tech on him. He didn't get a lot of, I bet you he didn't get nearly as many texts for just talking shit to the refs.
He did get into the refs
Okay,
for sure.
but he was smart enough to shut the hell up afterwards.
Right.
And the thing with Draymond is, again, man, if you can't control yourself, I can't use you. And I've been telling you for years, Nick, I never was a big fan of this guy's act, man. I always thought he was a decent player, but I'm not a big fan of his act, man. And his play definitely now, like they say, is the juice worth the squeeze? It definitely is not now. And there's zero chance. I had a friend at work say to me the other day, yeah, if I was the Golden State, I would trade Draymond after this season. Trade him? Who's trading for Draymond? Because that act, as old as it is on Golden State, it's beyond old on some other team. And on some other team, cats are going to be like, yo, man, just shut the fuck, dude. Shut up, man. Who are you?
Right.
Nobody wants to hear that. And no, you're not coming in here being a leader, because he's just a clown, man. He's a jerk. And I'm just saddened because he's clearly not a stupid man. He's a very bright man, but, I guess he either can't control himself, Nick, or he chooses not to. Okay. And either of those things I can't be around. I can't be around this guy and have him infecting my organization. And I heard some guys saying earlier, Seth Greenberg and Jay Williams, just saying that, he's ruining the culture for these guys. We talk about culture all the time. I mean, Nick, I told you that whole thing with Jordan Poole was just so incredibly bush league. I know you say, oh, you got to be ready. But if you're talking to another man, even if I'm joking, even if we're talking shit to one another, we're teammates, Nick.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
teammates. I don't think we're going to fight. My
I
hands are down at my side, and you just haul off and punch me in the face. That is about as bitch a move as I've ever seen. You just cannot do that to another man. And maybe you do it to another man who's insulting you, who you don't know, who's saying some really bad things about you or your family. Okay, you can't control yourself. This guy's your teammate for a couple of years.
yeah,
You've known him since he came in the league. He should be like a little brother to you.
yeah, yeah.
And you just haul off and punch somebody?
Right.
Right there, I thought they should have gotten rid of him. And I think they're paying the price now.
And the thing about it is that if he ever goes and plays on another team, not only will his act become even more insufferable, in addition to that, his play on the court will become way less valuable because
Glaring.
all of his all of his value comes with playing with that team and playing with all
That's
those
right.
shooters around him. And you're not going to find there's not too many Steph Currys out there to
No,
pair him with. So yeah, I don't see him getting to another team and making a real impact. And what it will impact is the Warriors' ability to get rid of him, and they might be stuck with him to a certain extent. It's the NBA. You can't just cut him. You still got to pay him. So
nope.
you just got to hope that. And clearly, there was a time where it was the opposite, where it was like, yo, he had a lot to do with building their culture. And he was
Right.
exactly the player that team with all those finesse players needed. And, I've many times touted his defensive versatility and him being the exact type of personality needed to play next to Steph and to Clay. But now it's just gotten to a point where, like, as you have said, the overall sum of the parts, it's just totally outweighing even the things that he supposedly does well because there's just too much other that comes with it, and he's got to figure it out. Perk did also talk about how there was one summer where he got into a fight with a guy outside of a nightclub, and the Sam Presti and the guys over there at OKC, they all said to him, "Hey man, you need to go do this anger management." And it was like 2 months straight in Kansas, one off season. And he said how important it was to him. And it changed, not just his career, but his life. McAfee chimed in that when he got in trouble with a drunken public, he then had to do, the NFL, whatever their program is for, drinking and substance abuse for like 27 months. And how he said, hey, I needed to tighten the reins a little bit right there. And that was really good for me to have to do that. And it doesn't seem like this guy, Draymond, has any want or any commitment to doing anything like that. I know that he supposedly had to take some sort of counseling after this most recent incident that got him suspended for so long when he hit the guy Nurkic in the face with the swinging roundhouse punch. But it doesn't seem like it's changed anything. The guy can't control himself, and it's just really a bad look for him. It's a bad look for the organization, but mostly just for him, man. Come on, man. This
Yeah.
is now going to become what your legacy is. You're a guy, you got kids. You can be a guy who is a nuisance and who plays hard and plays on the edge, but you just way too often totally dive over that edge into the deep end. And unfortunately, bro, it's a 3 foot pool. It's a little bit shallow. And you keep bumping your head and you ain't learning.
He's not learning at all. Listen, a point I wanted to make last year and the year before, we were upset at times with our man, Julius Randle, with arguing with the refs, the countenance on the court, and just the surliness and just arguing. He was smart enough to get introspective, look at himself, and decide to be better. And he made a huge difference with that this year before he got hurt. I mean, a huge difference. Draymond needs to go to that school because this guy was able to look at himself and make those kind of decisions. Draymond just, you see, and I'm telling you, Nick, Draymond thinks he's better than he is, man. He's a good player, man, but he needs to understand that part of you being as good a player as you are is because of the place you ended up in, and it worked out perfectly for you. And I'm happy for you. And you had a lot to do with that, and that's great. But dude, just understand, man, let's not get it twisted. You're not that good. I know you would argue that he's a Hall of Fame player because he's been on this team and all of that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I guess he's a Hall of Fame player just because of accolades and statistics and all that. I don't think he's that good in a Hall of Fame player. People want to compare him to Dennis Rodman all the time. I don't think Dennis Rodman had issues with other players and doing stuff.
With the refs, he had serious
with the
issues with the
refs.
refs. Yeah.
Serious issues with the refs. But Dennis Rodman wasn't doing dirty. I mean, he was doing some shit that was bad, but he wasn't doing no roundhouse punches. He wasn't doing, sleeper holes on anybody. Come on, man. That's beyond the pale. He didn't punch any teammates in the face. If you ask me, Dennis Rodman, believe it or not, Dennis Rodman is a more stable human being than Draymond Green on the court. Okay, I won't speak for off the court, but no, man, it's just foolishness, man. We shouldn't be watching this, and I think it sullies. I want to see him gone from them, man, because listen, they're going to have to move on from Clay, right? Because they're not going to give Clay all their money. They're going to have to go into somewhat of a rebuilding mode. They got to build around, Curry and Kuminga. I mean, that's the real thing. And that guy, Poplomensky, the Jack Harlow guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you got to build around those kind of guys. I'm sorry. Is Draymond the guy to keep there in this building time? Do you want your young players, going on the Draymond path? I say jettison him now. Get him out. Or tell him, listen, Draymond, we want you to be an ambassador, blah, blah, blah. No, but
ambassador.
But listen, put Draymond in like a quarter zip, and he's one of the guys in the front office or something like that. He's sitting next to Dudley.
As you said, Draymond, the way he thinks of himself, I highly, highly doubt that he has any intention of hanging it up. And it'll be interesting to see how and what even the Warriors can do when it comes to him moving forward.
Yeah, that will be interesting for sure.
Catch us every week on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. Please follow, like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button on all platforms. We really appreciate all the love. We try to stay as current as possible, so episodes will drop on Thursdays or Fridays, depending on the Knicks schedule. Shout out to episode number 30. You can also catch me on the True Knick post-game live throughout the second half of the season with my guy CPNY, link in bio, and you can find us on all socials at he_did this to me. Love you, big guy.
Love you, kid.